Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here with Oilers Live for another Megathread Monday with special guest, as always, Mr. Mike Dirsa, but an extra special guest, Mr. Georges Laraque, who is joining us from Montreal tonight. Thanks for joining us, George.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So normally, George, how we do this, we do this live stream. We're Oilers fans, just like you, I believe. And
yes.
We've been doing this live stream during this lockdown or whatever you want to call it, every 2 nights a week. And on Monday nights, I pass it over to Mr. Mike Dirsa there to do Megathread Monday. And I think you get tagged into the Megathread during the regular season. So you probably get, you probably on Twitter get 1 million notifications anyway, but then you get 1.5 million once game time comes. And so I know Mike's probably like itching to chat with you, and so great to have you on. But I usually pass it over to Mr. Mike Dirsa for Mondays. And so I'm going to do that and try to stay quiet the rest of the time here. But I know I've got some questions for you, so I'll probably pop in.
No problem.
All right, Mike, take it away.
So a few days ago, Akeem Malou came out with an article kind of talking about everything that he went through. Mostly what I got out of that was in his junior career. And, you know, that hit me pretty hard. I started reading the article, and, you know, when he talked about sort of the liquid heat in the jock and that kind of stuff, I could relate to that a little bit because I think I'm a year older than you, George, and I seen some of that when I was growing up. That kind of thing would happen to rookies and that. But then it got more personal, and it made me angry and sad when I heard, you know, he called out Steve Downey for sticking him in the face and breaking some of his teeth, and you know, that really struck a chord. Not so much that incident, but that everybody just stood by and let it happen and never really stepped in, and nobody said that's wrong. And, you know, as soon as I read that, I thought of you. And then I thought of, you know, what did you go through in your career? And, you know, was it like that too? And do you think incidents like that, you know, still happen, or is that starting to end? And, you know, all of that.
Well, you know, physical incident like this obviously doesn't happen anymore. I think that if a player did that, he would get sued because now it's not accepted anymore. And most guys, they take stance for that. But, you know, what's worse than that is racial abuse. And that's what I had to go through to make it, not to make it in the NHL, just to play minor hockey. You know, a kid should never go through what I've been through. And there's many other minorities that plays professional sport that has to go through it. And it's sad, even in 2020, racism is still there in all sport. It's everywhere. And we see some incident that happen in soccer, international, in Italy, in Europe, all over the place. And in hockey, it's not as bad. The culture of hockey with minorities is not as bad as the other sports. You know, once I made it to the NHL, other than that little incident with Sean Avery, I never had to endure any racism in the NHL. And playing Edmonton was so welcoming, and there's people, as you know, from a bunch of different communities living in Edmonton. And 1 year, we had 5 black guys on the team. It was actually pretty funny. I remember when we were going on the road once, and people were wondering if we were a football team because like that was so ironic. So, you know, I've always felt accepted when I played in Edmonton, so I never had nothing to complain about. But most of the stuff that I endured, it's minor hockey. And when I heard some of the stuff Akeem had to endure when he played pro, like we're talking about in the American Hockey League, you know, that's not fair, because right away, if your coach doesn't like you, you want to make it to the NHL, there's a block right there. And I can't believe what happened. The Flame did the right thing by firing him, Peters, but it's sad that it happened just a couple of years ago. And obviously he's out of the league now, but you got a second chance now in Russia coaching there. But as long as he's not back in the league, I guess it's a form of justice.
Yeah. I remember you looked like a football player. The first time I seen you, I was at, I believe it was an Oiler playoff game, and guys like Todd Marchant and Eric Brewer and Smitty, they're all coming in big Ford Expeditions and big SUVs, and here pulls up this little white Lexus, and out you crawl out of that, and this Coke machine walks by me. I was impressed right from them, George.
Well, what's funny is that when I was 15 years old, I had to make a choice between soccer, hockey, and American football. And my coach was Danny Machocha, which he ended up coaching in the Eskimos in the CFL. Mm-hmm. He was talking to me because I was a star running back when I was playing Bantam AA in Montreal, and I was running through guys. It was crazy what I would do with the ball. I was really good at football, and while I would have to make that choice, I decided to stuck with hockey because of all the racing I went through, and I figured, if I quit and I don't play hockey, I'm not going to be able to prove everybody wrong. Everybody has called me all those names. So I told Danny, I was like, you know what? I'm going to play hockey. And he's like, what? George, you'll never make it in the NHL. You're a black guy. Black guys don't play hockey. You're made to play football. He was trying to convince me to play football and not hockey. So, obviously I stuck with hockey. I played hockey. I never saw him again. I saw him when he was coaching the Eskimos when I was playing for the Oilers. So I went to see him. And I said, you remember when I was 15 years old when you were telling me not to pick hockey? He started laughing and he said, I knew you were going to come and see me. And I totally remember that. And we laugh about this. We laugh about this many times now when I say about that conversation that we've had. And obviously I made the right choice because I played 13 years in the NHL. But, again, when you're 15 years old, what do you know, right? You never know what's going to happen. But I'm glad that thing worked out.
The average career for a running back in the NFL is what, 4 years?
Yeah, it's a tough sport, man. Yeah. Football is tough, and those athletes are unbelievable. Like, you see all the great CFL players we've had that tried in the NFL, and they had no lick of a chance because this league is so good. Players are so good, so talented, so fast. It's a tough league to crack, that's for sure.
You like usually on Mondays I give Mike trivia questions, but you with the 5 black guys when you played, I'm thinking it was you, Anson Carter, Mike Greer, Fred Brathwaite, and I don't know the other one.
No, not Fred Brathwaite. You know the other two? Oh my God, you got to know the other two. One of them was a goalie. Come on.
Oh.
You don't. He's really active in the Oilers community right now. Start with a J.
Okay, Reddick?
No, I'm not that old. Come on, man. They start with a J. They start with a J. Come on.
Walking Gage.
Oh,
yes.
Gage.
And the D-man, the 5th guy, the D-man, tough guy, he could fight.
D-man.
He was drafted in the first round by he was drafted in the first round by Boston.
Okay. Sean Bell.
Sean, his last name you don't got it right though. Come on, but it's Sean the first name.
Sean Brown.
Yes, you got all 5 now. You got it.
That was a tough one, George.
Well, it's not that long ago, and it's something to remember for because, that doesn't happen many times. It's a record in the NHL to have 5 brothers on the team. So I'll never forget that. It was awesome.
I bet.
Do you think Edmonton's the most inclusive NHL team then?
No, I think that they're all inclusive, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think it's a coincidence that, there was 5 black guys that year, but all the teams, they just want the best players available, and they don't care about the color. They all the teams are in the business of winning the cup. So, if you're the best player, they think you could help them. They're gonna get you and stuff. And as you could see, if you look at every team, there's community, there's players coming from all different backgrounds, so they don't care about it and stuff. I just think that if you're good enough to win, a good player to play with heart out, you fit. You could pretty much fit in any team.
Do you think it's always been that way, or did Edmonton maybe open the door for that?
Well, no, I think it's always. And yet, again, the NHL, the culture is much different. You look at all the cups they won with Grand Fjord. Grand Fjord is black, and didn't look at the color. They're the best goalie back then. He's a legend, and now he's in Hall of Famer, right? So, and then you look at all the different European players that played there. So, and look at the history of winning that they've done with European players. So, no, I think that you look at Edmonton, you look at the Eskimos, you look at all the sports that are there. It's a welcoming community, and to me, and I always say it about the teams that I play, and I don't just say it because I'm talking to you now, but I've always said that playing Edmonton was my best fun, most best year that I've had playing the NHL, and not just because of the team, the way that we were as a family, but because living in Edmonton was just awesome. Like you go to any other rinks and you see those corporate guys sitting in the front row that don't show up and the rinks are empty.
Yep.
But Edmonton guys, they're painting their face, there's passion, they're so loud. And I'll never forget in the playoff how loud the crowd was. And the other team tried to copy us to be as loud, and they couldn't. We're the one that started chanting the national anthem when Paul Lario held up the mic in the air, and then all the other team copied us after. We started everything first. Even Ovechkin stole the Laraque leap when I was jumping on the board. He started doing that, and people were like, "Look, George, you're doing Ovechkin move. Are you kidding me? I was in the league before him. He stole my move." So see, Edmonton starts everything first, and the league after that looks at us and copy us.
Even the outdoor game.
Like when you win the cup and the team picture right on the ice, right? That started in Edmonton.
Yeah, all that. But that's a sad memory when you're talking about the cup, because I had a nightmare about 2006. Man, how do we lose Game 7 after winning Game 6 5-0, and we go up there and we lose? I still have nightmares, man. This is so bad. I can't believe that we lost. I'm so sorry to all the fans that were rooting with us. They were vibrating the whole city and come up short like this. And it's sad. It still hurts today.
I've got to ask.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, and you have no reason to be sorry. Oilers fans enjoyed watching you play a lot of years, and I've got to ask. That was crazy. Like I was, I've moved away from Edmonton, unfortunately, because I'm like you. I love the city. I love the team. I love everything about it, and I go back as often as possible. But one of the things that I'm really curious about, because I had been in other cities during the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it just wasn't like Edmonton. I mean, come game time, it was like a ghost town. Everybody, I know you were in the dressing room, you're preparing mentally. How do you keep focused when it's like that? Like, do you have to I would throw my phone out and not I wouldn't even read the news. I wouldn't do anything. That had to have been pretty crazy. How'd you keep focused throughout that, the finals specifically?
Actually, as a player, the one thing that we couldn't wait when in a playoff in Edmonton is to play at home, because our barn was so loud that we're unbeatable at home. It was insane. The team was already down 1-0 with just the way the crowd was. In the dressing room, we had shivers before going on the ice because of how loud they were. The dressing room was shaking. Even though it's made of cement, it was shaking. It was vibrating. The video that was playing in the Jumbotron, and I remember that year, it was with the Eminem song. My God. Yeah. There's no opening they've ever done that is better than that. That opening with that song, and I've posted it many times, and the hitting at the end of it and everything, I don't know if it's still Aquila that does the video grand opening for the Oilers, but man, I've seen, every year I go see Oilers game, I've never seen anything even close to that. That got the fans revved up. After the games, even though we were tired after playing every game, fans were out of gas. Their voice and everything, they left everything on the line just like we did. And that's what I'll never forget. I'll never forget that the way they were, how loud they were, and how unbelievable they were. That's why I feel so bad that we didn't win the cup for them, because I felt with all the support we had that year, we owe it to them. And it's crazy because you look at all the playoff series, what happened, beating Detroit in the first round. Who would have thought that? When Brad Wickenheiser took that octopus, he had a plastic glove under his hockey glove. He picked it up to break the curse. When the guy shook it in the air and he threw it on the ice, the guy in Detroit, and when we picked it up, the crowd, they went silent. They didn't know what to do. And then it broke the curse and we beat them. Look at each round had a story. And then we go and we lose Game 7 against a bunch of old guys. And when you're talking about comparing different cities, listen to this. This, if some of you guys didn't know that, you're gonna hate this, what I'm gonna tell you about this story. But when Kelowna won the cup, right? They obviously did a parade, the Stanley Cup parade, and the people complained to the mayor because of the noise. They complained because there was too much noise in the parade. So the mayor promised that if they ever win the cup again, they would have to celebrate it inside the rink. Are you kidding me? When you're talking about the wrong city that won the cup, if we would have won the cup in 2006, the parade would still be going on today on White Ave. 10 years later, the parade would still not be ending. So that made it even worse. When I read that, and the paper was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" So yeah, feel bad, but yeah, I'll never live it down. I lost another time in the Stanley Cup final with Pittsburgh, Game 6 against Detroit. Wasn't the same thing. Not even close. Game 7. What kid doesn't dream of playing hockey on the street and scoring? We're in Game 7 Stanley Cup final and scoring the winning goals, right? Not losing and being in a dressing room fully dressed 2 hours after the game, still crying about what we just missed. And then you go back home. You have no summer because you take a couple of weeks off. You have to start training again because it took all your summer for nothing. And then after that, the team got dismantled. And then it took 10 years for the Oilers to make the playoff again. There was a curse that happened after that, which I don't understand. Thank God McDavid saved it, but there was a lot of dark years after that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, it's been so exciting. Like when we did get back in 2017, we were all watching you as you, of course, made the trek. And I understand you called in sick to make the trek for the first game. Is that right?
What was that?
When you
in 2017, you said?
Yeah, when we made it back into the playoffs, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you called into the radio and said you were sick, so you could go to the first game. Is that what happened?
Oh yeah. Okay, I thought we were talking about the team went back to the playoff. Yes, because usually I was always at the grand opening at the first game back. So that's right. Oh, you have a good memory, man. You're yeah. I was always there. I was always going there. I go to so many games still. I'm such a big fan. The only thing that I wish was different is the noise. Because the way the rink is, it's so wide open that the noise is not like before. You look and in the NFL, they say the Seahawks are the loudest, right? Because of the way the barn is made. The way the sound is, it's so loud that I've been there many times too. And you can't even, like the other team can't even hear the play on the ground because the sound is so loud because of the way it's built. But Rogers Place, and it's one of the nicest rink in the NHL, and I know, but the noise is so important for players. And from being at Rexall, where the noise was like, it felt like the roof was going to explode. Now the sound goes up, and the atmosphere is not the same. So that's the only thing that I see that is much different. But obviously, the building is better and everything, and it is and stuff. But the one thing that I will always miss, and I've never, since I retired and all the plays that I've watched hockey, never seen an atmosphere like we've had in 2000. In 2000, not even 2006, the year before and the year before, all my years that I played in Edmonton, the crowd was always loud. It was always the loudest in the league, and it's because the way the building was made.
You were talking earlier about, Eminem. I think it was Lose Yourself that they'd play.
Yeah,
and on the scoreboard, they just have the Stanley Cup spinning. And that's all they had. It wasn't some high-tech video, but the noise was incredible. I remember, I think it was in 2000, you guys played Dallas, and Mike Modano said, I'm not looking forward to stepping into chaos. And that's what he called going into Rexall.
Yeah, it was. It was insane. That's what noise does. And then it was built like, it was going through our spine, and then we're so physical. We're like animals. When the game started, we're just hitting and killing guys. And I hated that rivalry with Dallas because, they're always beating us. They always had a number, other than that year when Marchand scored. And after that, every year we seems to play them and lose in the first round to that team. And it was like a curse. It was insane. I never quite understood that. Obviously they had more skill than we do. We were a hard-nosed, playing hard team, right? But there's one year we should have got them, and we let them off the hook because there's one year we should have had it the last time we lost to them. But other than that, I really thought in 2006 that was it. We had all the element. A lot of people say that the injury to Rolson, which was the MVP that year, cost us the cup, which probably did, because if he would have been healthy, we would have scrolled through Carolina like this in 5. Would have won in 5, and he would have got the MVP. But that's not what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I was asked to ask you about your hat trick.
The hat trick, it's crazy because when you're a tough guy, you never even dream of scoring one because you're like, this is never going to happen, right? And I'll never forget that game. We were playing Edmonton, February 21st, 2000 against LA. And I fight Steve McKenna that game. He's like 6'12", 19.
Yeah.
He's just a tall branch.
Bigger every year, right?
So,
yeah.
So I fight him, and I got 2 goals that game, and there's a minute 6 left in the game, about something like that, and they're pulling the goalie because the score's 4-3 for us. And when they're pulling the goalie, the crowd started chanting my name, so I could go out there to get the empty netter. Kevin goes back to me, gives me a pat in the back, says, "Sorry, George, you had to put the defensive unit out there, because it was an important game." So I'm like, I knew he was not going to put me there, but because the crowd was saying my name, maybe he's going to give me a chance. So, I stay on the bench, and then they put the defensive unit there, and then Yanni Nima scored. It's 5-3. There's 25 seconds left in the game, and then he puts my line with Jim Dalboy Devereaux, and I'm like, it's a good game, a goal to fight. When is that going to happen again? And then I don't know what happened. The goal is in the offensive end, and Jim Dahl gives it to Devereaux. Devereaux gives it to me, and then I don't know why I did that, but Aki Bird's in front of me, and I do a Denis Savard spinorama. I've tried many times to do that after, and I was always fall down. I never was able to do that move again. But when you talk about stars being aligned, I do a spinorama in front of Aki Bird, and then I'm alone in front of Stéphane Fiset. I do a backhand, and it goes in. I couldn't believe it because not just because it was a hat trick, because there was no time left. And I was like, what are the chances of it? So I started skating to the bench so fast. I think Connor McDavid would have been jealous how fast I was going. It's like I won the cup. It was insane. I couldn't believe it. I was celebrating. I went nuts. I was like, oh my God, I got a hat trick. And guys got me the pucks. And I got all the hats too that the people throwing on the ice. Actually, I had to throw them away a couple of years later because if you have hundreds of hats in a garbage bag and it's closed in a locker and you open it up after a couple of years, it smelled like dead skunk. it was crazy how it smelled. So, but what was awesome after the game, Wayne called me and he's like, "Congratulations, George! You only need 49 more to break my record." So I started laughing. But it's just the fact that he said that. Boy, it was just awesome. And the thing is, after that game, I did an interview for so long. I was still dressed and for so long that the next day I had back spasm because of the cold and the warm because I kept my gear on. So I didn't practice. So all the veterans were giving it to me saying, "Oh, you scored 3 goals and are you taking the day off or whatever." So those are all little things that I'll never forget about the hat trick. And actually, the best thing ever, actually, after and not the best, but another thing that happened that was awesome. It's Power 92. I don't know if you guys remember when I was doing radio in Edmonton. I was doing lyrics by Laraque with Power 92, and I did also countdown music or whatever in countdown in Power 92. It was awesome. They went in a parking lot, and this is my locker. Otherwise, I would have showed you, but because I still have it. They took a big poster of Power 92, and they got people to write down on the fans while they were going to the parking lot a comment about my hat trick, and that's unbelievable souvenir because it's such a big sign and you see everybody writing "Congrats, George" and stuff like this, and I still have it, and from time to time I look it up and it just makes me remember that day that I'll never forget.
I think both Mike and I were watching. I remember it. I remember how excited you were, and it was awesome. I have to ask because we're talking about hat tricks. When I looked at your historical stats, yeah, sure, you had a lot of PIMs in junior, but you actually were almost a point-a-game player at some points of your junior career in the Q. Was there ever a point where you thought you were going to be an offensive star instead of the enforcer that you ended up being?
No, not at all.
No?
The thing is, when you play junior hockey, right? I was so big, like I was bigger than everybody and stronger than everyone. So if you look at the year, like when you play 18 or 19, if you're bigger than everyone, you're going to put up points. It's easy to do so. But in the NHL, once you get there with your size, you're not impressing anyone. If I play in juniors, a lot of 16, 17-year-old, I could overpower them. So to put points in junior doesn't mean anything. Often guys that put a lot of points in junior, when they turn pros, they can't anymore because it's much more physical and it's different. So when I played junior hockey, I knew that I knew if I didn't fight, I'd still be able to put up points and be fine. But my goal was not to have a career playing junior hockey. It was a career to play in the NHL. And unfortunately, I knew that, if I just wanted to play hockey, I wouldn't have played in the NHL because I wasn't good enough skill-wise to be there. So I had to add fighting to my game to actually make it, like to actually be a regular and to play in the NHL, to make sure I was going to be drafted, first of all, because junior hockey, like people, scouts, they watch you and stuff, right? So if I didn't fight, I don't think I would. Maybe I would have got drafted, but in a late round because maybe a team would have seen, you think we can make him change his mind? But no, I knew that if I had fighting to my game, because I knew that I wasn't going to be a one-dimensional player, which means that you only go out and fight. I was playing 9-10 minutes a game and playing a playoff when most tough guys don't play a playoff. But actually, a little story about when I was drafted, which is actually pretty funny, is when I was drafted by the Oilers, Parky, the trainer, went up to me and he said, "What number do you want?" And I said 27 because 27 was my favorite number that I had on my life. So he looked at me and he started winking at me. He's like, "Oh yeah, kid, I'm saving it for you." I had no idea why he was saying that. I was like, "Why is he saying that?" It's a number. It's my favorite number, but why? He's just so nice. He said my favorite number, right? I had no idea at that time who Dave Semenko was. So when I took that, a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, that kid is confident. Yeah, we like it." And I was like, "What's with that number? Like, why everybody's like acting because I took that number?" People are shaking their head and they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, big shoes to fill, kid." Veterans were telling me that. And I was like, "I guess." And I would just laugh. So I look like this cocky kid just saying, "Oh, I guess, no big deal, But man, when I found out it was Dave's number, I turned white. As hard as that could be, black, I turned white. I was like, "Oh my God, what did I do?" I took a legend's number, the protector of Wayne Gretzky, one of the best heavyweight that ever played in the NHL. And I didn't know how things was going to turn out for me. I was a rookie. I took a number, didn't play one game in the NHL. I was like, now they all think that I think I'm going to be the next Dave Semenko. What did I do? It was insane. How much pressure is that on a kid that you come in as a heavyweight and you say you want Dave's number? It'd be like somebody coming in and say, "Oh, give me Gretz's number. Give me Gretz." I took Dave. It's just not maybe in the same level, you would say, because Wayne is the best player ever to ever play the game, but still, Dave is one of the best and forced to ever play the game. So, man, when I realized that, I was like, "Oh, I'm such an idiot. I should have read the history of the numbers." My God, and I regretted it. And I wanted to change it to like whatever number that wasn't 27, but obviously it was too late. But I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad it worked out. And what I'll never forget, what I'm talking about, Dave, is when we did the Rexall retirement night. I was so happy that I got to talk to the fans. There's a select player that was picked probably on popularity, and I was happy to be able to tell Dave that it was an honor to wear his number, and if I did maybe half of what he's done to make him proud with it, I'm a happy man. Just to say that to him, because a couple months later, I did an autograph session with him, and he passed away a week after that. And and I'll never forget my time with him. He didn't want nobody to know that he had cancer, and he was fighting through it, and he didn't want anybody to feel sorry for him. And man, that guy was a warrior to the end. And man, it was an honor to wear his number and to met it many times. He's such a great man.
Yeah, 100%. Mike's probably dying for a question. I told you I'd try to be quiet as long as possible, but sometimes I get these thoughts in my head. And
No
George, I'm curious now, when you talk about that, do you remember your first NHL game? And I'm kind of curious, like, who'd you invite? what were some of the lead-ins to that? How soon before did you know that you were going to play, and what was that like?
Well, actually, my first NHL game, I'll never forget it. I was playing with the Edmonton Bulldogs in the African Hockey League, and I got called up as a line, me, Joel Big, and Mike Watt, our center. And it was the Battle of Alberta, which was always feisty. And I got called up for that game. And I remember that game, I body checked really hard in the corner of Jamie Allison, and Todd Simpson went after me, and we fought. That was my first NHL fight in the Battle of Alberta with the legendary Rod Phillips that was doing the commentary.
Yeah.
Man, even me, when I was fighting, I would listen to Rod Phillips describe the fighting because I was exciting that he was. I think his comments when I was fighting was actually better than the fighting itself. Often when I was listening to his voice, he was so excited. He was awesome. There's two legends in the NHL for commentators. The Rod Phillips, and you know what the second one is?
Oh, we've got Jack Michaels now, and he's pretty legendary already. But
come on, Jack, come on.
Rod Phillips radio or TV?
Yeah, radio. Oh man,
that guy's a legend. I'll give you a cue. Mayday.
Oh,
Mayday.
Yeah.
Guys, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, I know. I'm not up on the media guys, but I know who you're talking about. And what's his name?
How could you not know?
Buffalo,
come on.
In Buffalo, yeah.
And what's his name?
I mean, I'd have to look it up. I can't remember his name. Because I actually have had.
I'm gonna give you guys a book. A book. It's gonna be like trivia for dummies.
Yeah.
Rick Jannard, guys. Rick Jannard. Him and Rod Phillips, same level, guys.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, we only listen to Rod Phillips and we listen to Jack Michaels, and it's Oilers radio for us.
Actually, Mike, to your defense, every time the Oilers play, I don't know how you do it, and I don't know how you get them, but your gift that you put on, man, you're so creative. What's your secret? You always have different ones that are so creative that you put on tweets, and they're so entertaining that I laugh. I always laugh. I'm driving and I see those things you put up, and I go online and I can't even find them. How do you find all that stuff?
Well, this year I've been a little lazy, but a lot of times I'll make them.
Oh, that's because you make him. Okay, that's why. You do stuff that I've never seen before that just makes me laugh. So good job. It's
especially if it's Anaheim, because we didn't like them for a while, right? Because they were kind of mean and dirty. And
well, we still don't like them.
Actually, you know what I think about when you talk about Anaheim? You know what I think about? You remember when that stupid referee didn't let that goal in when the guy was holding Talbot's pad?
Yeah,
and that's why we lost. That cost us the series. You remember that?
No.
Yeah.
My God. that was like that to me was that, as people will say I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. I was so into it. I believe so much in the playoff that year that it was close to be as upsetting as 2006. It was like a crime against the Oilers. Like Ben wanted a Canadian team to go through because we wanted the States, we want to grow the game in the States and more money because of TV rights. It has to be a US team or whatever. We started thinking about all that stuff. Man, I was so upset. I couldn't believe they let that go in. It's unbelievable.
That was not a good period of hockey for us.
Yeah. No, I know.
So you don't have to name names, but I mean that. Of course, Kessler was a public enemy number one for us. When I played in Montreal with Moreau, there was clearly a couple of players that we played against at the Hockey Helps the Homeless tournament that Ethan didn't actually like. Like, are there some players that you hold a grudge against still that you played against for years? You don't have to name who they are, but
no, I'll name names. There's actually only one.
Yeah,
there's only one, and it's Sean Avery, because he did a racial slur at me when I played in LA once.
Oh, it's fair,
and that's why. And actually, this little story with that is actually quite awesome. And that story I'm going to tell you is actually the reason why I have the utmost respect for Craig McTavish. This is crazy. So we play LA, the Kings, and Sean Avery's facing me in the playoff, and he calls me a racial slur many times. And I'm so stunned that he's called me like this that I don't know what to do. I want to club him in the head with my stick, but I know if I do that, I'm done. I get 10-year suspension. My career is over. I can't do anything. So I'm like, I act like doesn't bother me. So I go back to the bench after that shift. And then after the period is done, it was after the second period. It happened in the second period. So I'm sitting in the dressing room and I'm like, I'm livid. I'm like, I want to kill someone. So the guys is like, George, what's wrong? And I'm like, that fucking Avery called me a racial slur. And the guys are like, what? So Gator, in the third period, he calls a melee when Avery was there. And guys on my team, they jumped him. They opened him up for stitches or whatever. And because they were so mad at him, but they had to create a melee to kind of make it look like there was a scramble so you could poke at him and jump on him. So it was awesome to kind of see like the guy sticking up to the guy that actually fights for them every game. But after the game, we go to the bus to go back. Obviously, the bus parks underneath the Staples Centers to go back to the airport, so we could go back to Edmonton. And when we're sitting in the bus, the team is there, our team is there. We're waiting for just a couple of guys left, and MacT's in the bus, and Avery's walking to his car because his car's underneath the Staples Center. So when he's walking to his car, MacT comes out of the bus to confront him and to grab him. And when MacT did that, all the team, my teammates, came out of the bus and they followed him. That was one of my best moments in the NHL. That team bonding, what MacT did that day, it was like, to a guy that fights for a living, that fights for his teammates all the time, that often doesn't recognize for the sacrifice that he does, that does the dirty job, the hands are sore, that you go in and out and you fight the biggest guys. And when I saw that, when he did that, I was like, wow. Like, to take a stand for me like this, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that MacT did that. And all the guys following through and yelling at him and stuff. It warmed my heart so much. And it was, those are, when you retire, those are moments like this that you remember that makes you miss this camaraderie that we have with coach and teammates playing in the NHL.
That sounds like 180 degrees different from that Akeem Alou story.
Oh,
he was all by himself.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I don't understand why his teammates they take a stand. It's hard to comment on something that I wasn't there.
Right.
And right. Comment on stuff because when you want to comment on stuff, you always need both sides of the story. Yeah. Now we have his side, but we would need his teammate side. So it's tough for me to say like what happened. Did they do something, but Akeem just didn't talk about it? Like. So that's why it's hard. I feel bad what he went through, but again, it's really hard for me to comment on something that I didn't talk to everybody to actually know this is how it happened. But I still feel it for him, and I believe him when he says that this whole thing actually cost him an NHL career. I believe him when he says that.
Some reporters are wanting McDavid and Crosby's opinion on that, and it's kind of like what you said. They weren't in there in the room with them, so it's hard. Yeah,
it's not fair to do that because first of all, why are you asking? Like, what's better opinion it is? The one from Akeem or two of the greatest players that are playing the game today? Yeah. Why are you going to them? Why they're supposed to take a stand for him now? They don't even know the situation. You want to put him on the spot so they look bad because they could only look bad. Whatever way they're gonna go is gonna turn on them. They're gonna look bad. So you don't. This is so sensitive. That it's better not to say anything about it until you don't know anything. He's not there. It's better not to comment on it. But the media, they always fishing for stuff and try to grab the story and
go after the marquee player.
Yeah, because if Connor says something and it becomes worldwide, right? It explodes. So he has to be so careful. So I totally understood the way that I saw how they responded and what else they could have done, right? So they did good.
So I'm curious, that Avery incident happened in 2005, right? And and you talked about it like that whole team, it was an incredible bonding moment. Is there something about that team that you thought, was different? Did you know, did you have a feeling in your gut at all during that season that you might end up making it to the final round?
Well, no, we the thing is with us is we were always like a hard-nosed team playing four lines, checking, and we didn't have any money like the other teams did. We never, other than that year we got Pronger, we never spent money on guys. It was just like we were a low-budget teams all the time, fighting for playoff, and that was not that it was a Stanley Cup, but we were proud to be competing against teams that had bigger budget than we did and were making the cup. It was actually awesome. So obviously, that year, we would have never thought we'd make it to the final. There's one point we didn't even think we were going to make the playoff. We had an unbelievable run to finish the year just to make the playoff, to squeeze in the 8th spot. And then people were like, well, with all the energy we needed to squeeze the 8th spot and to play Detroit, we're down in the first round. But actually, one of the things that happened, other than just breaking the curse with the Octopus, is the fact that often when you play playoff hockey to finish the year, when you start the playoff, you're already on that mode. And Detroit, that just cruised into the playoff with all the talent, they just got steamrolled and then never saw us coming because we were at a pace that it took them too long to just adapt to it. And that's one of the reasons why we were able to beat them and surprise the whole NHL.
Yeah, including us Oilers fans, but we were happy to be surprised. Very happy.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That season, George, you guys had like a work ethic because I played a lot of rec hockey that year, and I would go into the dressing room and you guys would be down like 4-1 heading into the third period, and I would come in after a period of my hockey and check the score, and you guys were taking games into overtime all the time that year and getting points and collecting. Just like you guys never quit.
No, we never did. And just the style that we had of hard-nosed playing hockey and finishing our check and tiring out the other teams, they hated that. Defensemen, like when we downed the puck, we went after them all the time, and Gators was killing guys center ice, and it was awesome. Rafi Torres was nuts, and I was telling him, Rafi, you could do whatever you want. Nobody's going to touch you. And he loved it when I said that to him. So everybody played their role so good, and everybody was like to perfection. It was just awesome, the chemistry. And if you look at Pekka, Pronger, that you had it to the mix of the talent that we had already, it was, man, we had the perfect team to beat anyone. And, I remember when we beat the Ducks to make it to the final, man, we beat them easy. And I remember that one game we beat them, everybody was sick on the team. They were going through IV before the game because we're so sick, and we beat them. Yet their coach was so embarrassed that he actually said that we made it up, that it wasn't true, because he didn't want his players to think that you got beat by a team that was all on IV. But actually, it was true. The media saw it. Our whole team was like, I don't know if it's food poisoning or whatever it was, but we were all sick, and we still beat them in the playoffs. So after we beat the Ducks in 5 and we played the Stanley Cup playoff against Carolina, that's the team that come out of the East. Are you kidding me? And then we lost. We'll figure that out.
The best of times, the worst of times, eh?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I think that I'm just happy to have you on here, George. I reached out to you quite a long time ago, and then of course Mike reached out to you on Twitter. And, I think, and it, I mean, you are still to this day, and we're talking 14 years later, right? You are still a very popular player amongst Oilers fans. And, I think part of it comes from your love of the city as well, right? Like, as people respect that about you.
Well, there's a couple of things that I did that I think that people recognize. And I'm not even talking hockey-wise. Mm-hmm. When I was playing in Edmonton, I used to visit people's home. Like, I used to go to fans' home 3-4 times a week to visit people that couldn't afford to go to games.
Oh, wow.
I would get requests to my website, and I would go to people's home. So after a while, the teams told me that after a couple of years, they told me to stop doing that because it was dangerous, because people could set you up. So then when I would do that, I would bring friends with me as witness in case I got set up, right? So another thing that I used to do is, when I had my website, is I would send autographed pictures to people. And all the time, they'd send me their address, and I would send pictures all the time. I would do that every day. I'd send probably 300-400 pictures a week and I would do all for myself. And also in Edmonton, you could ask the others that if you don't believe me, but the girl that works for the community service, she was assigned to me to do my schedule every month for charity work. I was doing so much charity work in Edmonton that's what the people, I think, they appreciate about the fact that it's one thing to say you love the fans, but when you're actually active doing charity work, that's what people recognize, that the fact this guy will love the city. And I love the city so much that even though I was born in Montreal, after 2 years of going back in Montreal in the summer and being back in Edmonton, I'd stay in Edmonton all year long. I wouldn't even go back home because I love the city so much and I had so much charity work to do that I would stay there all year long to do charity work. And I rent a box. I bought a box for kids, even though I wasn't making $10 million a year. I bought a box that I was donating to sick kids every year that I played there after my third or fourth year. And yeah, I did stuff like this all the time in the community. But the best story that I have to tell you guys this story about, so you can understand the impact that I had in the city and why I love the city so much. And what I was doing is the nurse at the Stallwood Children, they had my number, and every time the kids wanted to see me, I would go to the hospital to see the kids. And I'd say just call me and whatever. And because I remember when we did hospital visit when I was a rookie, when kids saw Doug White, how excited they were. But when my status was much better in Edmonton, now kids were requesting to see me because they saw a fighter on the ice. And since they were fighting for their own life, they were like, I'm going to fight for my life just like Georges Laraque is fighting on the ice, right? But that's also one of the reasons why I was able to cope with fighting, because even though I hated fighting, the way that I battle, not like my brothers that was taking steroids or alcohol or drug to fight the anxiety, the way I was battling through the fact that I had to fight, because the anxiety is the worst part of fighting, is that I would think of that kid that I just said was fighting for his life. I was like, you know what, George? Yes, your job tonight, it's tough, but it's not as tough as this kid's fighting for his own life. Mm-hmm. That's how I would rationalize my job. But anyway, there's this one time I'm in Calgary. I was there for a vacation or whatever, and I'm sorry, all this time to go to Calgary for vacation is a sacrilege. It's wrong. But anyway, I'll tell you something else that I didn't actually do that would have been worse after the story. So anyway, I'm in Calgary for vacation, and a nurse calls me at the Stallwood Children. She says, George, you got to come and see this kid. His name is Jordan Clem. He has muscular dystrophy, and he doesn't have much time left to live. You come and see him. So I drove back for Calgary, and I drove I think I drove over 200 clicks. I had, and don't ever do that, by the way, if you listen to me, even if there's a good reason. But I'm telling you this because it's many years ago, and they can't go back and give me a ticket because anyway. So I go back 200 clicks. I made it in an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes. I made it from Calgary straight to the Stallwood Children's Hospital in the room where Jordan Clem was, because I wanted to be there before he passes away. I walk in the room, and his family is there. The priest is there, and this is last time. So when you go in a room like that, you got to change the energy. You got to try to make the kids laugh, not thinking about his pain and the family and everything. And it's a really hard thing to do. But you want them to remember that his last moment, he actually smiled and he was happy. That's what I did. I come in there, I hugged him, I talked, he smiled a bit, and boost him up a bit. I see the whole family. And after a bit that I spent there, and I told everybody, be courageous and all that stuff. And I left. So when I left, it was actually quite a touchy moment, but something happened a week later that actually changed my life forever. There's an article that came out of the paper in the journal. It was in the editorial section where people could write stuff to the journal that the journal would publish. And it was actually an article from the aunt of the Jordan Clem that wrote down on the paper that she wrote down about an angel that visited her kid at the hospital. She was referring to me, and she said, because of that visit, because that day they were not ready to let him go. But they said because of that visit, we got Jordan Clem a week later. They got him a week more. He was supposed to die that day. And from a visit from a guy that pushed a puck for a living, they got him a week later. When I read that, I burst to tears because I was like, there was no medication, no machine, nothing in the hospital that could actually give them a week later. And a single visit which was as easy as it was to go see him and talk, give him an emotional boost that got him a week later. When I read that and I cried, I was like, that's it. I'm devoting the rest of my career and my life to charity work. So every team that I went to after Edmonton, Phoenix, Montreal, and even Pittsburgh, you could ask them. There was always someone assigned to me for charity work. And I would do so much that sometimes the GM would come up to me and say, George, you sure you're not tiring too much because you're doing a lot of things? And I was like, no. I never forgot the Jordan Clem story. And I've always wanted to do as much as I can because I understood the impact we could have as athletes with others. And that's how I devoted the rest of my life. And even though that I'm retired, I try to do as much charity work that I can, because when you die one day, you're not respected because you've won many Stanley Cup or because of how much money you made or how good of a player you were. Nobody cares about that. As an athlete, we're entertainers. We entertain you watching the game. We entertain you sitting on your couch, drinking beer, eating chips. That's it. We're entertainers. Mm-hmm. How you want to be remembered as a human being when you go is how you were in the planet, in your community. How you were with the fans that you're so thankful that you're playing hockey for a living. They're putting money in your pocket. How were you with them? How were you with kids? How were you with charity? With the platform that you had to be influential, to change the world, to help others, did you use that? Or you didn't? Because it's a duty that we have. We have a duty to God to give back to the community because of the chance that is given us to be there. Because there's no way God gave us all the chance to be playing a sport that He beat out the millions of kids to be there, not to have an impact. Because you're chosen to make a difference. And the difference is not in hockey. It's everyday life outside of hockey. And that's how I want to be remembered. And I think that's how I will be remembered when I pass away. And that's what I think about.
That's awesome, George.
Thank you.
You recently whooped a little virus's ass, and I see you're donating blood.
Yeah. Well, I obviously, as you guys know, I got COVID-19, and I never thought I was going to get it because, I'm healthy, I'm vegan, I'm invincible. This never going to happen. I was actually training for the marathon, so I got it. I was delivering food for elderly, and what I was picking up groceries. I have this bad habit of always putting my hair back, and when I do that, I touch my face. But once you touch groceries and everybody's touching, and you touch your face after, that's how I got infected. So I got it, and but it was no big deal. I know I did a video when I got it to tell people to be careful, and I coughed a bit. But the reason why I was coughing is because they were shooting 3 liters of oxygen through my nose. Try to talk while having oxygen through your nose. It's actually pretty hard, but it was no big deal. The way I looked it up now that I got it, even though I'm asthmatic, it was like a cold. It's pretty much like a cold. I coughed a bit, used the oxygen for a couple of days, and I was fine. And even without the oxygen, I would have been fine at home with a couple puffers. So, I think that this COVID thing is scaring people way too much. It's changing our way of life. It's killing the economy. The economy is going to be way worse than what the COVID is. Yes, elderly people have to be careful. They have to stay indoors and stay away because they have to protect themselves. But those same elderly people have to be careful not to get a cold because their immune system is so low that they would die anyway. But all I'm saying is that even though I got it, I think that everything is blown out of proportion. It's scaring people way too much. And people are so scared that if they get it, if you're scared of it so much, that your body becomes acidic. And if you get that virus, it's so acidic that your body cannot fight through it because you're so scared that you're welcoming it. But if you're happy and you just live your life, whatever, if you get it, it'll be easy to get rid of it because you just stay active. And I stayed active. And when I was at the hospital, I was doing squat, push-up. I was jumping around. The nurse were looking at me. They're like, is he crazy? No, I'm not going to stay on bed, laying down, letting that virus killing me and letting me sleep like I'm dead or whatever. So no, it was not a big deal. I didn't care. And I'm even glad that I got it because they say that you built antibody in your blood and was able to donate plasma. I'll be able to donate plasma regularly because Montreal had the first case of plasma that they gave from somebody that recovered from COVID. But the plasma from somebody that covered that has antibody in it, antibody of the COVID, they were able to cure somebody that had it. So I'm going to give it regularly because it'll help others. So I'm glad that I got it. So now I'll be able to help others with my blood. And also they say that you're pretty much immune for a while when you got it. It's tough to get it a second time. And if I do get it a second time, I don't care. I'll fight through it again. I'll go in quarantine. I'll come out again, and I'll live. Because we only have one life to live. We don't know how long that's going to be. It could be tomorrow, or days, maybe tomorrow in 2 days. Your last days in this hurt, is it going to be scared wearing a mask, staying at home, and scared of hugging people, seeing your friends? Is that how you want to remember your last few days? Because you don't know when that's going to be. Because some people, that's actually how the last few days are. Mm-hmm. Some elderly people that are already as alone as they are, that's how they spend the rest of their life right now. People are afraid of them. Nobody's seeing anyone. We're not designed to be like this. The human body is a machine. And over the years, the centuries, we withstand many viruses that we're able to fight through it. And this is just another one that we're going to have to live through it and fight through it. Because if they keep closing down the economy like this, when this is over and they're going to try to restart the economy, there's going to be another crisis going, which is going to be way worse than this crisis. Because with all their business, it's going to close, people going under, people commit suicide, the depression, and the tax going up. Man, we're going to have another problem coming.
Are you back training again, like running?
Yeah, I am. I'm running for my third marathon that I'm going to be running next year. I've already ran 2, and I'm going to do my third. So I'm running regularly. I fully recovered from it. And things are great. Things are happy. Thank God. And still a happy guy.
Awesome. I think, George, and we've kept you quite a while, and I want to, I'll thank you again. But how long you looking at this Oilers team right now? I got to ask you an Oilers question. I mean, we've got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, just absolutely unreal, and just this great core. Are we going to see another Stanley Cup in Edmonton?
Actually, the things with that is there's no doubt that McDavid is the best player in the NHL, and Draisaitl is the Scottie Pippen of Michael Jordan. It's as simple as that. And what the Oilers needed is the Tony Kukoc, the Dennis Rodman. They needed those guys to complete that core, to make it. And over the years, they didn't find that core. And it starts with the goalie. And unfortunately, we were not lucky goalie-wise. That year, Talbot had an unbelievable year. That's the year they made the playoff. And he was the MVP with McDavid. He had such a great year. But he played above what the years we saw after is the regular Talbot. But that year, he had a subpar year, and he never even came close to that. So the thing that is killing us right now is the goalie. Because I love Cassian now, how he turned it around from Montreal, how it is, and those role players that are there now, and it's awesome. And the D-man, it's, I love Donald Nurse, but, I think they need a bit of help back then, but it's really at the goalie level. You look at that signing of Koskinen, and then obviously that guy, the GM is gone now, but some of the things that I didn't quite understand, but I think that if the Oilers could get a really, really good goalie, they could win the cup. They can win the cup because, Connor McDavid and Draisaitl are always going to put up big points. But this game, the way it is now is you can't win by scoring 5-6 goals all the time, right? You need to win tight defensive game. And if you don't have the goaltending to do it, it's not going to happen. And when you do a swap, when you go get a goalie from Calgary to be your goalie, the number one goalie, it shows you how desperate you are and how much you need a goalie. Because who would do that before, right? Battle of Alberta. Let's get a number one goalie from Calgary, right? If Calgary lets him go, it's because they don't see him as a number one anymore. But if we see him as a number one in Edmonton, it shows you how low our options are, right? So I think that the Oilers could win the cup. I think they will win the cup because Connor and Draisaitl are just starting, and there's many years left ahead of them with the big contract they signed. They're locked in for a while, but it's going to happen when the Oilers find a true number one goalie, and then they'll be able to make tons of damage.
Awesome. Well, that's what I wanted to hear. That's 100% the right answer. Yeah, they will. Once get the goalie situation figured out, and we'll be having we'll have you back once they win the cup, George, and we'll replay that you and,
you called it. Yeah,
we'll say you called it. Mike, any last questions for George?
I just got to tell him that in the I think it might have been the year you went to against Carolina. We used to have a Buick Skylark, and on the back of it, we had a decal that said, "Can you smell what Laraque is cooking?"
That was awesome. When I used to fight and score, they would play that in the big scoreboard. It was the noise that would play all the time. And when I got my hat trick, that's what you heard too. And then I don't know why, but WWF complained, and they told the team that if we played that again, they were going to sue us. Are you kidding me? Like, how many times do you hear that? Like, this is the NHL. What's the big deal of playing that? We're going to sue you if we're playing that anymore. So obviously the team didn't fight to keep that motto, and then they just played that stupid song. That song that's like, "Stop the Rock, can't stop the Rock."
Yeah.
That song? That's what they would play. I went from The Rock, WWE, to that stupid song. Are you kidding me? I would get into a fight and I'm like, please don't play that song. That's the song they were playing. I'm like, that does not rev me up at all. I just want to die right now. I can't believe they're playing that. After I had the Rock. You go from that to that other song. Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much for doing this, George.
Hey, you're welcome, guys. Anytime. That was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks.
Yeah, enjoy. Thank you.
Bye.
Oilers Live